I haven't got time to mark this motherfucker. Here we go again. We can't hear anybody. Nobody can talk to anybody.
You guessed it, Pressure Points with your two favorite hosts. I'm D, and this is Meet AJ. We're coming at you with Season 6, Episode 41, the most ruthless interrogator of the Luftwaffe. AJ is back on that motherfucking World War II grind, baby. Find us on Instagram, Patreon, at pointsopressure.com. Let's get to it.
Well, turn the fucking thing off, you dumbass.
Speaking of meat,
Yeah, I brought back some of the voices.
you did the adolescent voices.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
No, speaking of meat, I did the Ethan Chlebowski freezer meat thing because I got a. You know that guy? Is that how do you say his name?
It's actually it's Klebowski.
Klebowski.
Yeah, did you know that?
No, he never says his name.
No, it's okay. I thought it was Chlebowski for the longest time, and I was like, I hate fucking saying his whole name, but
Klebowski?
Yeah, it's Klebowski.
Okay, awesome dude on YouTube. Great mustache.
The big Klebowski.
Big Klebowski. But he has this video on like storing meat in the freezer. And it's like you can do freezer bags, you can do, like food sealers, which I got a decent and okay one. So, but he's like, if you get ground meat, flatten it and then portion it and then store it that way. Or like with a chicken titty, you pour it into whatever portion you're more likely to use, flatten it, and then seal it in bags or sealers or whatever. So I did that with some Winco meat.
Yeah.
Because Winco meat's the cheapest.
Turn out well.
So good. I don't have to crack shit open. I can just cook it from frozen.
Fuck yeah.
And they had this sale on. It's not a sale. It's the day old meats. I love the day old meats.
Yeah.
It was like $4.11 for 2 country fried steaks.
Damn.
So I bought that and just battered that shit up. Had made some gravy. I've been eating good.
Hell yeah. Not bad.
Yeah. And then
Shit. That
there we go.
Kima Mater that I made today.
Oh yeah.
It's his recipe.
Oh, awesome.
If you don't know who he is, we really shouldn't start the show out by referring people to
other
else.
people. Check by at the end of the
His name is Ethan Chlebowski. It's CHLEBOWSKI. He's an amazing, like he breaks down like food science. He has some phenomenal recipes, and my favorite part about him is that he does so much of his cooking based on weight rather than like, a cup of flour.
It's grams.
I don't know why, but ever since I got a food scale like 2 years ago, and
you got a Coke scale, but you're using it in the kitchen.
Yeah. And I don't know. I've always just liked that approach more. It's always made more sense to me. And then I got a better food scale, and man, it's changed.
Oh yeah.
Everything.
I do everything that I can.
I love
every
it.
time I can, I'll weigh it out.
My mom got mad because I converted her pizza dough recipe into grams.
Yeah,
into
that commie measurements.
Yeah, it's like I converted it into weight, and she was like, "Why? It was good as is." And I was like, "Yeah, but now it's better."
Yeah, now it can be actually consistent. But it's great.
If you don't like by weight recipes
or just food
still
science,
check him out because he still did I'm pretty sure that he adds the additional measurements and everything.
I think he does.
Sometimes.
I've heard him
at least
say
on his website on the recipe.
On the recipe, he does. Yeah. How's your week going?
It's good.
Yeah.
It's been surprisingly not bad.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, just been taking it easy, and that's about it.
Perfect. Hey, that's good. It's wintertime. This is when we hibernate.
How was your very busy week?
I had to go into school for 4 of the days. I got something out of it. Wish it didn't happen, but I feel like I learned something from it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but fuck that.
It was 4 days, 9 to 4, and it was just let's review everything that you've covered in the last 3 years.
Gross.
Luckily, the presenter was really good. They were people on the staff at my school were like, the presenter that's usually here is dry as shit. So you guys got the good one. I was like, oh, thank goodness.
Dude.
Ugh.
School sucks already,
Yeah.
but like having to do 8 hours of it 4 days in a row, like if I had to go back and do high school again, I
wouldn't.
I would kill myself.
Yeah, I would just drop out and get my GED, but
That's fair.
I should have done that.
I wouldn't do that either. I'd just drop out.
I should have done that originally. I was gonna, but I was like,
Yeah, you were going to drop out?
Yeah, I mean, I already had a job. I was so ready. I was ready to move out when I turned 16. Like,
oh, I see.
There's nothing against my parents. I was just ready. You know, I was born 35 years old.
This is true, yeah.
So I was just like, all right, let's go. I had like a girlfriend. I had a job. I was driving a car that wasn't mine.
You'd been gestating since the 40s.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I've been
was a simpler
somewhere.
time.
It was a simpler time. And yeah, so I was ready. I considered it. Because you know my mother got her GED, and there's nothing wrong with a GED.
Yeah, no,
it means
not
the
at
exact
all.
same thing. So for a while I was like, yeah, I want to do this. The only thing that kept me in was my school let me take 2 different human biology classes at the same time, and like an advanced anatomy and physiology, all in the same semester.
Fuck.
So I would go to one class, the advanced like anatomy and physiology class, and then the same day, I had that on both days. You know how it's split, A, B days. I had that on both days. And then on one day after that class, I had the first human biology. Then on the second, I had the second. So
it's the most AJ story of you going in and being like, I'm thinking of dropping out and just getting my GED. And your school counselor is like, let me bargain with you. And you were like, okay.
All right. If they offered good history classes, I would have done that too. But I would do, you know, this body system in anatomy and physiology, and then the next class we would have a test on that subject, and then the next day we would have a test on that subject.
Really?
So like the first class I had decent grades in, you know, like B minus.
Yeah.
And then in the second one I had like B plus, and then the third one I had straight A's. I aced every test, and the teacher would grade them on a curve. So when I
was
would
it the same teacher every time?
It was a different teacher every time. Thank goodness.
Oh my God.
So the third test, I would always like 98%, like 96%, crazy. And everybody else would be getting like 70.
Everyone in the class fucking hated
70s and 80s. I mean, they kind of did until the teacher was like, okay, well, when I'm doing the curve, we're not going to keep the highest score on
We're
it.
going to go with the
We're going to drop.
second
Yeah, we're going
highest.
to go to the second highest score.
We're going to grade on the average.
I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Because I was going to get my throat slit in the bathroom.
Jesus Christ.
But no, then I stayed in. But yeah, school was fun this week. I finished a very large project today worth 15% of my grade. I spent 4 hours on it. PowerPoint presentation about vitamin A deficiency in children.
Gross.
Yeah.
5 weeks to go. 5 weeks to go. I'm counting down for you.
You're counting down for me? That's good because I'm forgetting to count down.
5 weeks to go and 2 or 3 more weeks of this, I think. I don't know.
Something like that.
We're getting close to the end of this season. I don't know what day it ends on,
yeah.
but
I'm starting
in.
to struggle coming up with episodes.
Yeah, it's hitting that point.
Like this, I almost did an episode on, and I wanted to mention this anyway, the Battle of Shiloh during the Civil War.
Uh-huh.
I growing up, the Civil War was my focus. That was my autistic.
Gross.
Before I knew what World War II was.
Yeah, and you were like, the South will rise again.
Yeah, it was like the War of Northern Aggression. Yeah, and so there were a lot of really good like historical nonfiction and historical fiction books in my school that I read. Some of them that were like, oh shit, why am I like one of them? This dude got his head chopped off, and I didn't even know that was a thing that could happen when I read it. And he like threw up because he watched his own brother get beheaded, and
Jesus.
I was not ready to deal with those emotions. Then another one about a young boy who gets, I don't remember, it's been a long time, but basically the classic one family member on the Union, one family member on the Confederacy. Yeah. He's kind of split between them. And then he's kind of conscripted into it, but he's also a kid, which, I mean, they had kids as young as 9 in the Civil War, but Yeah, I was going to do an episode on the Battle of Shiloh, but when you look it up, most of the accounts are so dry and boring. It's just this guy rode in with these guys, and then these guys reinforced from the rear, and then these guys.
Reenactment kind of
so
shit.
boring. I want like the stories, the experiences, the first-hand stuff. And I just didn't look into it far enough to find that stuff. But I did find that during the Battle of Shiloh, there were some troops who were wounded. And you get wounded, you're not going to die from the wound. You're going to die from the infection.
Yeah.
And they realized that their wounds started glowing in the dark. And they're like, what the fuck is this? Like, I must be hallucinating or something.
Yeah.
It's got to be the syphilis. I don't know. And
Oh my God, I'm bioluminescent.
yeah, I'm bioluminescent. We don't even know what that is. But their wounds were glowing. And then the medical corps basically figured out that the people who had the glowing wounds were healing faster and better and weren't getting infections.
What the fuck was it? God?
It took like over 100 years for some teenagers in a school science fair to show that it was actually a competitive bacteria. So it was actually competing with the bacteria that would have given you, blood poisoning and killed you. It was competing with those. So it was helping your body fight it
blood
off.
Rot.
Yeah. It was helping their bodies fight it off.
Damn.
By also fighting the bacteria.
So their bodies were having their own civil war during the Civil War.
Exactly. Wow. Yeah.
It was about the friends we made along the way.
It was about the friends we made along the way.
Wow.
Yeah, and then
That's wild.
Yeah, it was so weird. But I'm like, I can't stretch that into an episode.
No.
So then I was like, I tried to type in like what are weird things that happened in history that ended up having a super simple explanation. Couldn't find shit about that.
Google's like
what the fuck?
No results.
Yeah. No, it was all cooking recipes. No.
It says get a life.
Yeah. Get off the internet.
Too specific, asshole.
Yeah. This is my job. So I was like, this whole time since my last episode, I got to do another World War II episode. Yeah. We're getting to the end of the season. Got to go back, bread and butter.
Yeah. Back to the basics.
And I found this guy who's known as one of the greatest. I don't know if greatest is the right term.
Would you say one of the most
ruthless interrogators? Probably one of the most effective interrogator in all of Nazi Germany.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Take it away.
And here we are. Hans Scharf. That's
Scharf?
2 N's, 2 F's.
SHARFF?
SCHARFF.
Oh, of course there's a C in there.
Of course.
Stupid.
Come on.
Silly
he was born
mistake.
in East Prussia. Oh. So, in 1907. December 16th, 1907. Mark your calendars. We should do a calendar, a Pressure Points calendar, where we only have dates that we've done episodes on.
Slutty calendar.
With us. Fuck yeah, that would be great. So he was born to Hans, with 1 N.
Oh, my God.
And Elsa. The most German Prussian names I've ever heard. If you were to ask me what are 2 random German parents' names or Prussian parents' names, I would say Hans and Elsa.
Jesus.
So Scharf. Yeah.
Oh, this feels like a fucking Mel Brooks skit. God
It kind
damn.
of does. Hey, people often refer to me as the new Brooks.
Do they?
Yeah. Sorry, I lost my train of thought in the middle of that sentence.
The new Mel Gibson.
The new Mel Gibson.
Wrong Mel.
I was fending off a cough and I failed. But so Hans Senior with 1 N was a Prussian officer, and he ended up dying in 1917 from wounds received during World War I on the Western Front.
Okay.
It was not quiet.
Nothing
On
was
when he
quiet
died.
on this Western Front.
And so he was wounded, but he was able to, he knew he was dying, and he was able to send a letter off to his 3 children. One of them would die a couple years later. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, fuck them.
So
This isn't about them.
Yeah. This isn't. No. Is this called the most ruthless interrogator of Nazi Germany or whatever we decided on? And his brothers?
And his boring brother that died years before.
As a late teenager?
Boo.
Gross. But Elsa, see, she came from
She's
one
a
of
babe.
Germany's largest textile mills.
Oh, damn. You know how I feel about textile mill girls.
Ooh, hell yeah. Especially when she's the daughter of the owner.
Oh!
So, they were probably pretty well off. They were probably very affluent. Of course, the older brother, he was the middle brother. Hans, with 2 N's, was the middle brother. So while the business would go to the older brother, he was still expected to kind of learn the trade, pick up, contribute to the business.
Yeah.
So he got to go to a pretty decent school. He trained in textiles and weaving. Then he went into merchandising, business, marketing. Merchandising. And then he went to, he started learning about exporting.
Okay.
So he is, being trained to be this great businessman. And he ends up going to South Africa for a year to work for a car company. He basically went to South Africa to be a car salesman.
What the fuck?
It must have been some connection between
it's
the families. It must have been the son of the largest textile mill. Oh well, I can get him a job in one of my, salesmanship somewhere across the world. Get him some worldly experience.
I can get your son a job. Oh, great. There's a catch.
Yeah, small catch here. So he ends up going down there, and he meets a fabulous woman named Margaret Stokes.
Oh. Okay.
And he...
Good old Maggie.
Yep, he starts selling cars, and the whole plan, I'm going to be here for a year. He gets a promotion. He ends up staying here for 10 years.
He stumbles into
He becomes
a
the
diamond
director.
mine.
Yeah. And his name, Elon.
Gross.
No, he becomes the director, basically, of the car salesmanship place.
Okay.
The car dealership.
Yeah.
Couldn't remember that word.
Car salesmanship place.
And he marries Margaret, and they have 3 children across those 10 years. And life's good.
That is so just not common back in that time.
Yeah, right.
3 kids over 10 years is whoa, what?
Whoa! You gotta pick up the pace.
What do you mean you didn't have all 3 within 6 months of each other? God.
Well, you see, the difference is Margaret. Where does that name come from?
What was her last name? Margaret
Stokes.
Stokes.
Margaret was a British woman.
Okay.
And in fact, she was the British daughter of an ace pilot from World War I. Her father was a British pilot, hero, which is just a weird kind of, yeah. He was a pilot during World War I. He was an ace, and I forgot his name. It was Claude or something. I have it later, but yeah. Huh. So he's the son-in-law of a British fighter pilot hero. Which is very interesting for Hans. Sharp.
Fuck everybody that just looks out.
Right?
Go to hell.
Yeah, so she's probably just down there on vacation because, it's South Africa with the British. We did a whole episode about that. But, yeah, so they get married. He becomes extremely fluent in English. She becomes extremely fluent in German. Life's beautiful.
Grand.
They live in the South African dream. Only because they're white. And this is firmly in apartheid.
Oh, God.
So they decide, let's bring the kids, let's bring the wife to meet the family. So they travel one summer back to Germany. They're near Berlin.
It's 1937. They're wait, what?
It was the summer of 1939.
Oh, my God. I was so close.
Yeah.
Did they have any idea what the fuck was going
I
on?
don't know. I don't know. Because if they did, why would they go?
Yeah,
maybe they thought it was we'll get in ahead of it, and then we'll leave, and then it'll start. The writing was on the wall. It had to be, even from that far away.
She's got brown hair and brown eyes, and they land, and they're just oh fuck, we shouldn't have come
with
here.
all their brown-haired children.
God.
So the war breaks out, and they're essentially stranded. They can't get back to South Africa because it's, basically under British control.
We're on vacation for 6 years.
And they get stuck in Berlin. He gets a job because of his, impeccable record. Then he gets drafted.
Ah, damn it, dude. If you just stayed in fucking South Africa.
If he just stayed living the dream out there, would have been fine. So now he's drafted, and now his British wife is stuck with their half-British children in Berlin.
Oh, Jesus.
Like, oh, shit. So he's drafted into the Wehrmacht. And
Which side of the wall are they on? That's a really
this
important
is
question.
very pre-wall, and this is very central. And so he's sent off for training for a couple of months, and he's slated to be sent to the Russian front, the Eastern Front.
Okay.
That's not good.
No, that's great. Perfect.
If you're sent to the Russian to the Eastern Front, you're going into the meat grinder right now.
Germans and Russians got along great,
Yeah,
didn't they?
perfect.
They were best buddies, right?
Yeah, they didn't work together to take over Poland and then immediately stab each other in the back. No. So, and he gets assigned to a panzer unit. Not a panzer unit, a panzer unit.
Panzer.
And his wife gets word that he's being sent, which again, British South African woman stuck in Berlin with her Prussian German family. God, that must have been terrifying for her.
Jesus.
But maybe not. I think this lady got a big old set of balls on her.
Yeah?
Because she gets a letter. She gets word back. Oh, yeah, I'm going to the Eastern Front. And she says, fuck no, you're not.
What the fuck?
Her
uncle's Hitler, and
gets
she's like...
pissed off. Uncle-in-law.
Yeah, uncle-in-law. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
She talks her way into just some German general's office without an appointment. She talks her way into it and berates him. And she starts saying, you guys are fucking idiots for putting this dude who's great with people and speaks fluent English to the front line. Why would you do that? And, I'm thinking, that is really stupid. To do that. Like, they're currently fighting, like, the Battle of Britain. Well, I mean, that hasn't really started yet. But, the British are the main enemy right now for them. And they're worried about the Americans coming into the war. But they're like, yeah, this guy who has been living with a British woman for 10 years in South Africa, who knows a lot about their life and their mannerisms and things. Yeah, let's send him to the Eastern Front.
When he was working in South Africa as a car salesman, she went to his shift every day. And she was just over his shoulder. And when people were like, nah, price is a little high for me, she'd chime in and be like, you're a fucking idiot. Yeah. She would just berate them into buying the car.
I don't know.
I'm selling cars left and right. Like, this is great.
But then you're thinking of, I'm thinking of the time period. The war just started.
Dude, yeah.
How did a British woman...
No idea.
Do this? How did
she...
In Berlin, demand the respect of a Nazi general? And he listened. Like,
I don't know.
Good for her,
but fuck.
I don't know what she did, but badass. She's the hero. Because she at least saved a life, maybe. So, yeah, they listened. He was transferred to an interpreter unit based in Germany. He would, officially never see frontline combat as long as he's part of this interpreter unit.
Damn.
Probably saved his life. So
Hear that, guys? Get yourself a girl that'll keep you off of the front lines of fighting against Russia in World War II.
Get a girl who will, yell at the waitress for you if you ordered red sauce and you got white sauce.
Hell hath no fury, man.
Yeah. So he was transferred to Wiesbaden in Germany to report for his unit. It's Company 12 is what it was called. But it looks really cool in German because they use K for company.
So K-12?
K-12. Company 12.
Okay.
Yeah. But they didn't really, because it was so last second, they didn't really tell him where to go. So he shows up at the train station, and he goes to the military police.
He just goes home.
Yeah, just goes home. No, he goes to the military police and says, hey, where's Company 12? Like, I'm part of this interpreter unit. And they say, no. You're part of a panzer unit.
Oh, my God. So they transferred him from one
So they
to
transferred
another?
him. They took him to another panzer unit.
Oh, my God.
And he's trying to say, no, I'm not part of the panzer unit. Like, I'm supposed to be in this interpreter company. Like, what are you doing? And they just weren't really listening. He starts
you
getting
really
frustrated.
think your wife can come in here and tell us how the fuck we're going to move you? No, we just transfer you to another panzer unit, you dumb piece of shit.
So they didn't listen. And the new battalion and the leadership in the new battalion just didn't listen to him at all. They just thought, oh, he's just trying to get out of it. So he remembers that letter his dad sent him on his deathbed. Basically said, if you ever, run into problems or you need some guidance or something, reach out to Major Ledebour or Major Postel. They're both in my regiment. They know me. I know them. They'll help you out.
Man, this guy with fucking name dropping. Jesus Christ.
And so he probably opens a phone book. I don't know.
He opens and it's just immediately to the letter that his dad wrote that has their names.
So far,
on there.
this guy
He's
has
like,
amazing
oh my
luck.
God, the luckiest man alive.
Yeah.
That note that his dad wrote slips out of his journal and lands on his feet. He's like, 1 second, reads it, and he's like heaven opens up to him. He's like, oh my God.
Yeah, so he finds that Major Postel, or I think he was a lieutenant colonel at this point, wasn't he? It was basically in the town. So he reaches out, he gets in contact. He says, "Hey, my dad said to reach out to you if I'm having some problems." He explained his story. Turns out Major Postel was very close friends with the journal of the battalion. He calls him directly and says, "Hey, fuck off." Bring him to Company 12.
Jesus Christ.
And he gets escorted to his interpreter company.
God damn.
Like, the luck of this dude.
For real.
Normally, it's not like this. It's like, my entire family died, and then I was conscripted, and then I was a Nazi, and then I, like, it was just, it's a weird angle. So, at this time, he works with the interpreter unit. He doesn't really do a lot of interpretation. He does some training on American and British, nuances, but he already kind of knew all that stuff. And after some time, a couple of years, he was sent to the HQ of basically the interpreter services of the war effort. And he worked as a clerk. Super boring. And we've talked about this before, but the Germans and the Nazis really liked using those, IBM cards.
Oh, yeah.
You'd poke a hole, and that's how you would store data.
Yeah, little hole punch
Yeah,
things.
proto-computers, binary code stuff. Super interesting. But he would do that. He would poke holes, store data.
Jesus.
That was his job. All day, every day.
Which, in all honesty, is, the best job during a fucking war.
It really was.
War.
Yeah. But he got bored. And he was so bored, he calculated that based on his wage, that every hole he punched was worth 5 cents. And he happened to let that slip in front of what's basically his manager.
Oh, no.
His manager goes to the general.
Says, we're overpaying this guy.
And says, hey, this guy is being kind of a dick. And he gets pulled into the general's office, like going to the principal's office. And the general basically says that low-ranking people shouldn't be doing things that don't concern them, and he shouldn't be doing this shit because he's below that. You're here to poke holes. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Stop calculating how much each hole costs.
Yeah, what the fuck? And then he asked Hans his story. Why the fuck are you here then if you're so bored? Basically looking for a reason to fire him or send him to the Eastern Front.
Send him to another panzer unit.
Yep. And he heard his story.
He goes, I'm promoting you to general.
He heard his story, and he sent him to the Luftwaffe Interrogation Center. It's between 1 and 3 people a year from this place could be sent to the interrogation center. It's like a major promotion. He was stockpiling data at his clerk job. Now he's gathering it.
Yeah,
he's
so
going to be an interrogator. He just got a fucking promotion. Again,
dude.
Extremely lucky. So he gets sent to Oberursel, Germany. Oberursel, Germany. And the facility that he's now going to be working at was the main intake center for all Allied Air Forces personnel. Besides the Soviets. They got sent somewhere else. They probably just got sent to a ditch somewhere. But yeah, anytime there was an Allied Air Force POW who got captured, they would come through this facility. And he became an assistant, interrogation officer.
Assistant to the regional or the
Pretty much.
regional interrogationer.
Yeah, so he would work under the main interrogation guy, and that's where he learned how to interrogate people.
Oh, okay.
He never really had any direct training. It was just watching this guy. It ended up being 2 guys. They ended up dying from a malfunctioning aircraft, and he got their jobs.
Jesus.
I know.
fucking
I know.
Christ.
It's ridiculous. He fell into this. At this point, he's transferred from the Wehrmacht to the Luftwaffe. He can no longer be sent to the Eastern Front.
Oh my god, dude.
I know. It just keeps happening. He's ridiculously lucky. So he becomes a full-blown interrogation officer, and he starts running interrogations on these POWs. He was assigned an assistant named Otto Engelhard. Hardet. Otto Engelhard. But they also called him Canadian Wild Bill. I don't know why. He was a German dude, but then I could not find any reason.
Canadian Wild Bill.
Yeah, Otto Engelhard.
Jesus Christ, what a fucking nickname.
And it turns
It
out...
probably
yeah,
translates way better in
It's probably
fucking
sounds way
German.
better, yeah. But turns out Hans was really good at interrogating people.
Of course he was.
He fell into his dream job because he was a car dealer before. He was a car salesman. Of course he'd be good
Jesus
at
Christ.
interrogating prisoners of war. And his technique was world-shattering. It was brand new, essentially. He took and perfected the kill him with kindness technique.
Oh, okay.
So a POW would come in, they'd be confused, they'd be scared, and he would basically say, if you can't give me any information beyond your name, rank, and serial number, I'm going to have to turn you over to the Gestapo. I don't want to turn you over to the Gestapo because you've heard about them.
He just played good cop so well.
Yep. So
Jesus.
he's, all right, you just give, what unit were you in? What base did you come from?
The world's most lovable Nazi.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Like, what do you do? Like, but if you can't tell me anything else, I have to, it's in my rule book right here. If you don't give me anything else, you must be a spy. And I got to send you to the Gestapo. So that's the first thing. That's how we'd get him. He'd usually get unit name and the base they came from. And usually that was good. That was just enough information. Like, that was the start.
Okay.
And that would give them usable information. He often said, oh, well, I don't want to send you to the Gestapo. I just want to put you safely in a POW camp. And yeah, they would talk, and then he'd let them kind of get acquainted to their new situation as a prisoner in an interrogation center. Then he would show up, and because he was so familiar with British culture, he would start making jokes.
Okay.
That the Brits would relate to. He would make homemade food from his wife's recipes because, she's British.
Yeah. So he just walks in with fucking mashed peas and...
Yeah, brown. It was a plate of brown.
Yeah. Brown and gray.
Yeah. And then he would also... This was brand new. Nobody
And
really
they're
done this.
Oh my God. It's just like back
just
home.
like home. Oh. And he would bring in... Sometimes he would even bring in booze. Like whiskey and shit. And share it with them just a little bit. And he would mention, oh yeah, my wife is British. Or, oh, where are you from? Oh, my wife is, from near that area. She's from Gloucester or whatever.
I'm sure he went. There's no way that they didn't visit her family ever in all the time that they had
10
been
years.
together. Yeah, I'm sure that they had gone back. So he's like, oh
he
this and this
knew
and this.
about it, and that's what really gave him the edge. He would also mention, oh yeah, I'm the son-in-law of, I didn't write it down, Claude, the flying ace of World War I.
These dudes are like, where the fuck did you go wrong then?
Yeah, no, he played off the war and the interrogation I was drafted.
Yeah.
I don't want to be here. You don't
sure.
want to be here. We got to be here because, the government's the bad.
Yeah.
I'm not upholding it or, working for them at all. I'm just doing my job,
Jesus
Just like
Christ.
you. And he really played it off. And he got a ton of information. And a lot of it was just...
His wife's over his shoulder. She's like, you better fucking tell him
better
everything.
fucking tell him.
These guys are like, okay.
Oh.
She's 7 feet tall with 22-inch arms.
Yeah, huge balls just
Just-
hanging out the bottom of her skirt.
Just
Dragging on the
massive
ground.
fucking biceps.
Yeah.
Her shoulders are just 4 feet wide.
Looks like somebody on that synthol or whatever.
She's just a
like a cloud.
beast, yeah. Fucking Neanderthal.
Yeah. And he was so successful in gathering so much information, and he was also so good at like gathering and making these charts on people that they started sending him the high profile pilots. And he started getting more permission to do whatever. Basically, he could do whatever he wanted because he was so successful at it.
Well, because if it ever went wrong, he'd just get another fucking promotion.
Yeah, right?
So
somehow.
God.
They'd be like, oh, we were going to close this position anyway. You're general now.
Jesus Christ.
So he even let one British pilot, like he was a high-profile pilot, fly a German plane.
What?
Yeah, they were like, we're just putting in enough fuel for like a 10-minute flight or whatever. You know, fly it, land, as long as I have your word. Simpler time.
What the fuck?
And yeah, it was like the British pilot was like, yeah, I want to fly one of these German planes. Like, that's cool to see, you're checking out the other team's gear. And he let him. And it worked. He got a ton of information from the guy.
Jesus.
He would host tea. He would like tea time with the British pilots and German pilots.
What the fuck?
And they would talk. And they had this level of camaraderie where it's like, yeah, I'm a pilot, you're a pilot. We're both kind of stuck in this.
That's so
It's nothing
wild.
against you, nothing against me. While we're here, let's enjoy it. And they would talk about, flying, and they would talk about aviation, and they would talk about their families.
They're like, what happened to the guys that didn't give you any information? He's like, let's not talk about that. You want some more tea?
Yeah, you want some sandwiches? Let's see
You
what
want
else.
a toasty?
He would give some prisons pool time. They could just go to the pool. Go to the zoo. Some of them were allowed to go to the zoo.
Fuck.
Some they would let him go to a
little
fancy
fucking interrogation field trip.
It reminds me a lot of the what was it, like P.O. Box 1052 or whatever. We talked about it a little bit, where the Project Paperclip, the Americans brought the Nazi scientists over, bugged them, and then let them live at a resort essentially.
Yeah.
Do you know where they got that idea from?
This
fucking guy.
Oh my god, dude.
So, yeah, they would bond. They would have these fancy luncheons. They could like go to the cafe down the street with this guy. Like he got so much permission. They got better medical care than they had back in the UK or in America.
Britain's trying to make deals to.
They had dental care.
Britain's like, we'll make a deal to get some of our POWs, and the guys are like, no.
I'll stay.
No, this is great. This is
No,
great.
I know where Winston Churchill shits.
Please don't take us.
One of the most interesting things that he would do, I think, doesn't seem that crazy, but I just think it's super smart, is that he would allow them to, go to the local hospital to get their own medical checkups, their own medical care. But he would make sure that, because he gathered so much information on these people, and it started to kind of like a puzzle come together from different people, he would get just a little bit, and he was able to piece it together so well. He'd be like, oh, this guy's from this unit, and there's 3 of his comrades in this hospital, and this guy doesn't even know that I know what unit he's in. I'm just going to say, yeah, you're going to go in and get checked out by the doctor, and he's going to walk in and be with his 3 comrades, and they're going to let something slip.
Yeah.
And they always did, even if it was something innocuous.
Good God, dude.
So smart. And but his favorite thing, his most successful thing on his review was that he was allowed to take them into the nearby forest and just go on a walk. And one guy. Yeah. And all he would say was, hey, promise me you're not going to try to escape and we can go for a walk.
Okay.
And they would say, okay, I promise. And it was so smart because it like revealed, it made the POW think, oh, he trusts me.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, he's not trying to get anything out of me at this time. It's just a walk. I can just go on a walk, clear my head, get out of this, interrogation headquarters.
It's also the idea in a lot of stuff that talks about like couples counseling and shit. Not that I've gone to couples counseling.
Self-report.
But they talk about when you have like big discussions to have, when you've got like really bad news to break, or you've really got to talk about something, work something out, instead of sitting at a dinner table across from one another, that feels combative. Mm-hmm. That's why we sit like this.
Because we want it to be combative.
A battle for who's
it is a
funnier
battle.
on the episode.
It's a sexual battle,
but
too.
They say one of the best approaches is to go on a walk because you're side by side. You're both moving towards an objective together, and anything that's said isn't at them, it's with them. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure the exact same, like this is the guy's exact same approach.
Is probably based on him.
Oh, I'm sure.
like
it's just like
their
you're
entire,
gonna get these guys out and they're away from everything. You're out in a forest, like it's calming. No, neither of them are saying anything. I'm sure that Hans
would,
with two ends is
Hans
just like he's
never,
like he's not saying a word. He's just walking along, and he's
push
like,
it.
They're gonna.
Sometimes he'd be like,
up.
"That's a pretty flower."
Yeah, they're gonna go. Oh, it's nice and quiet here, and he goes, "Oh man, yeah, I agree. Like, I sure love when it was quiet back home. Where are you from?" And that's it.
Yeah,
and
it
then
just started
feels
a
more like a
conversation.
friendly discussion. You're out on a walk with a guy that he probably wasn't even fucking wearing a uniform.
No, he was. I was going to get into that. He was allowed. He was one of the very few people allowed to not be in uniform.
Yeah.
He was allowed to dress in casual clothing, so that to have the impression that he was extremely high ranked. Because the only people who could be
casual Friday when you're the luckiest man in World War II.
And I don't know how he had to have been using his tactics and shit on the higher ups because he could get away with anything. Like, imagine going to your boss. You're an interrogator, middle of the war. Maybe at this point the war is not looking that great. And you say, hey, this guy has a lot of information. I'm going to let him fly one of our planes. How did he do that?
He used the same tactics on his other bosses. He was like, I really don't want to wear the uniform. So he went into his boss's office. He was like, hey, do you want to go on a walk in the forest today?
Yeah, do you want to go on a
walk?
walk?
And they're walking, and he's like, man, these uniforms sure are uncomfortable.
You know what? You know what he really did is it's all set up on the walk. About halfway through, about 10 minutes in, his wife is standing on the other side of a tree.
Yeah, she's just
to fucking
like,
beat the shit out of them.
Fucking rippling.
It's like
she's just
they're walking
flexing.
past and like, you see her? Casual Friday every day, or she knows where you live. She knows your face now.
Polishing fucking
brass knuckles.
Brass knuckles.
And she goes, he's like, she has your scent now. She'll never never lose it.
You better not make her wear his fucking Luftwaffe uniform, hey mate. And his boss is like, oh shit, fuck. Jesus Christ.
God! Maggie, I didn't know you were there. Oh, that's really good.
Every day's fucking casual Friday for him, isn't it?
Imagine she's got like that British short, like curly hair. You know how it curls in around her Arnold Schwarzenegger-esque I can't even say it.
No, she's wearing the fucking Parliament like white hair shit.
Oh, definitely.
Oh my god.
Oh, fantastic. And yeah, he would never ask him anything on the walks. And they would just, they would just talk. People really want to talk to fill the silence. That's why we have a podcast.
He would stage it so that his big ass wife would just like run through the trees. And he'd be like, was that fucking Bigfoot?
Was that a bear?
And then they'd just link on a traumatic experience.
Yeah, exactly.
And he'd be like, oh my God, we saw fucking Bigfoot. And she's like, just out for a fucking run for the day.
Yeah. Get my cardio.
God damn.
But his big skill, and the skill of any interrogator, is to get somebody to leak details without even knowing.
Yeah.
Because if they know, oh, fuck, I said this thing, as soon as they're released, if they make it back or have any communication back home, they can say, hey, I accidentally let this slip, and then they can change it.
Well, I mean, even that, like, with how many people he's in contact with, anything they say is going to be information he's able to use with someone else.
With someone else, exactly.
He's got, like, this big, like, I almost said charcuterie board, but like a bulletin board.
It's like
with,
a big bulletin board with red yarn.
Yeah, like he's doing this with everybody, and so he's getting all of this information and just collecting it and shitting it back out. He's doing the hole punch thing that he was doing before,
but on a bigger scale.
But now just on a bigger scale.
Dude,
That's
he
wild.
had such in-depth charts of people who weren't even prisoners yet.
Jesus.
He would be like, going out for a walk, and he's like, oh, the prisoner would be like, oh, my friend really liked this tea or something.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, your friend, what's his name? And they get the name, and he's like, is he in your unit or something like that?
Probably not even that.
And you basically
He's just
figure
like,
out,
oh, so and so really likes this tea. That's probably his fucking friend.
Yeah, and then he gets, oh, this prisoner's here, transfer him to me, and then he can do his third step of interrogation, which goes crazy, and we'll get to it. But like, for example, this is one piece of information that he did get that was huge. He just mentioned casually, it sucks that the Americans are going through that chemical shortage because all your tracers are white. All your tracer rounds, they put off white smoke, and the pilot was like, no, it's not a chemical shortage. They just turn white when they're almost out of ammo.
Jesus
and
Christ.
That, as a pilot, is...
And they're like, okay, cool.
I'm like, that's interesting. I thought there was a shortage. We're having that shortage. Sure.
Oh, same thing happens to us.
Yeah, but now they know to teach their pilots, hey, if you see white smoke on tracers, they're going to be out of ammo. Go back.
Yeah.
Like, go fuck them up.
Dude.
Like, that's a huge piece of information. And it just stacked up. The more he would do it, he started getting the tough prisoners of war, the people who wouldn't say a word. He started getting the pilots who were in the media in different countries, like the ace pilots and things like that. And so one thing he would do, if somebody's not talking, not going to do anything, not responding to the niceties, he'll just say like, oh, what's your favorite color? Guy doesn't answer, and he'll say, oh, it's blue. And he'd be right, because he'd get that information from somebody else.
Yeah.
Then he would go from personal to, oh, you're part of this unit. Oh, this guy was your wingman.
Yeah.
Oh, and he would slowly reveal like super personal information.
Your third grade teacher's name was Mrs. Jensen.
Yeah, shit like that.
Excuse me?
And eventually he would get to the point where he's like, I already know, I'm just confirming that kind of behavior without saying that. But
all I have to see is like I would imagine that as soon as he says like, oh, this, and it confirms it, they're like, what? And like, whether they're hiding everything, like they're still going to look up or like
there would be
caught off guard.
A thing. And often he would say,
Jesus.
we already know this. I already know this about you, but my managers want you to say it out loud.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it would be like he would ask a question, give the answer, then the other person would say the answer again. And then he would say a question of something they don't know, and the guy would say, oh, well, we don't have it's this new gun, but you already knew that. And a lot of times they would say that. They would say, oh, but you already knew that. And then he would say something he didn't know. And so he would do that.
Just kind of bounce it back
and forth. And he would get so much crazy information that they would never reveal, but it felt like they'd already lost. And then he ended up interrogating some pretty big American pilots, like Lieutenant Colonel Francis Gabreski, who was an ace fighter. He has a really interesting story. If you're interested, go look him up. But the basics for this story is he reached his 300 hours. He had almost 20 confirmed kills.
Jesus. 300
hours of mission flight. He's on his way to his wedding on discharge. Like he writes his wife and says, I'm coming home this day. Get the wedding ready. His passenger plane gets there, and he sees another mission is going out, and he says, I just want to do one more. So he goes out. He escorts B-17 bombers. On the way back, he sees a German airfield unprotected, and he dive bombs it. He takes out 3 craft, which is crazy. That's huge. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
He's like, I didn't do that good enough. So he comes back, and the tip of his propeller just barely hits the ground, and he has to crash land, and that's how he lands in this guy's pocket.
Jesus.
And this was one of the very few that he could not get any information out of.
Really?
Not a peep.
Huh.
And they actually became friends. Like, after the war, they became friends.
Jesus.
They even reenacted their interrogation together in the 80s.
What the fuck?
Yeah. They were
so weird.
It was so weird. He did roughly 500 interrogations with very few failures. Maybe 1 to 2 dozen. Maybe. Because he was just so good at it. So the end of the war is happening. The war is, winding down. He's back with his family. Things are okay for him because he never killed anybody.
His wife did.
His wife definitely did, but they hid the bodies. He never joined the Nazi Party, as far as I can tell. Huh. If he did, it was that involuntary, because a lot of times they would just say, okay, you're in it. Yeah. At this point, by law, anybody in the Wehrmacht is in the Nazi Party. But he was in South Africa during the whole Nazi movement.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
He got back and just immediately got drafted. It wasn't.
Yeah. And I was like, hold on. This guy's not an asshole. This whole time I was like, no, he's an asshole. He has to be.
Yeah.
And, the most famous interrogator, the most effective interrogator in Nazi Germany has to be a Nazi, right? I don't know. Huh. So, end of the war happens. His family's fine. His family's safe because, she could take a tank shell to the chest and throw it back.
Every time somebody was about to shoot him, she would fucking jump in and deflect the bullets with her
pecs.
8-pack abs.
Yeah. And he still has this reputation, but he's also kind of in good with the POWs because he treated them so well. They remembered him.
I feel like kind of going back to the whole, he technically wasn't associated with the Nazi Party. I feel like if he was just in deep with them, if he had identical views to what the Nazis were spitting out, if he's eating up all that propaganda, he wouldn't have treated anybody like that.
He wouldn't have been in this position. He would have been a Gestapo interrogator because he was so effective. Yeah. He wouldn't have done this. So 1948 comes around. And there's a big U.S. trial. At this point, he's just, trying to get his life back together, just like everybody after a world war. Things aren't great, as you can imagine, just all around. But they're trying to get their shit back together. And he gets called on by the United States government to do an interrogation. What? That's how good his reputation was, that even the high-ranking, POWs who came back were like, oh, there's this one interrogator. He was awesome. His name was Hans.
They're like, oh,
he
Hans,
was so
my buddy.
nice.
I have a friend that's over there.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah,
and they
still writing to him.
They brought him over. They flew him and his family to the United States to interrogate Lieutenant Martin Monty, who deserves to be part of an episode that I may do next season about propaganda. Uh-huh. See, I think it was 1944, he was interrogated. I don't know if he was interrogated by Hans or by somebody else. I'm not sure. But he was interrogated. He was brought to a POW camp, and he ended up defecting to the Germans, to the Nazis. Ooh. And then he started working on the Nazi radio propaganda, which was a big program that I'd love to talk about. He met Axis Sally, which was a lady who was doing a lot of propaganda, who was like, oh, I'm Axis Sally. Americans suck.
Basically the opposite.
Defect.
It's like the anti-Betty Boop.
Yeah. And what's that? There's that... Oh, what was it? They did it in... all these wars. But in Korea, there was a famous radio broadcaster who was anti-American, pro-communist, and it was... Yeah, it was a similar subject.
Sean Hannity.
Yeah, whoa. No, that's still. But yeah, he met all these people in the propaganda industry. He starts working on the radio and stuff. And then towards the end of the war, he just pretends like he was a POW the whole time. He almost gets away with it, but somebody recognized him.
Those meddling kids and that dog.
Yeah. So they bring Hans over to interrogate him and testify against him in court to prove his defection to the Nazis. As far as I know, he's successful. And from 1948 on, he just kind of stays in the U.S. He's allowed to stay. He networks with a bunch of Air Force officials that he had met as an interrogator, but this time as an ally, as a bro. And he's like, hey, you now are running an interrogation school. You want? I'll do a lecture. And he starts a lecture circuit.
Jesus Christ.
And he lectures at interrogation schools. He lectures at the Pentagon just after the war.
Jesus Christ.
And he ends up staying in the U.S. permanently.
The Pentagon was really just trying to recruit his wife as a super soldier for their testing.
They took her DNA for sure, and that's where Captain America came from.
It's a true story,
It
actually.
is. They just got the timing wrong. It happened after the war. It wasn't World War II that Captain America was in. It was the Korean War. He leveled so many villages. And also, it wasn't Captain America. It was Margaret Stokes Schaefer.
Maggie. Oh, my God, dude.
And, yeah, he ends up writing a memoir that's just kind of for himself. He never wanted to publish it.
But it gets picked up, and it sells 50 billion copies.
Well, it kind of gets picked up by some military people. Just like he was just sharing it,
Yeah.
but not really trying to publish it. But this military guy reaches out to some of the people that he mentions
Yeah.
and says, "I don't trust this guy.
I don't buy it.
He must have been a piece of shit Nazi like the rest of them.
No way.
No way." So he reaches out to all these people, and they write back glowing reviews saying what he wrote about me was 100% accurate and true. And I support this book. If it comes out, let me know, and I'll buy a copy.
Jesus.
And yeah, he published it. He ends up publishing it with all this evidence that it's real, because a ton of memoirs, I'm 100% sure, have been altered. Like to put you in a better light. But yeah, everything he said, as far as we can tell, is true.
Jesus.
Plenty of people have come out and said, no, I'm still friends. You know, we exchanged Christmas cards. And he fades into nothingness. No, he doesn't actually. So this is the weird part. This is the part that said I have to talk about this guy. Okay. Let me check the time.
No, you're good.
Okay. He publishes a memoir, probably makes a lot of money, and he says, I'm going to go back to my basics, to the skills that I learned before the war. Before South
selling
Africa.
cars for Henry Ford.
Before that, oh God. He would have been regional sales director immediately. It's like, Henry Ford? A Nazi? A Nazi?
Henry
Ex-Nazi?
Ford goes,
Okay.
I'm putting you in charge of the line dancing program that I'm putting
the square
together.
dancing, yeah. I'm assembling a team of square dancers. My wife has to come because she leads.
We're going to teach you a bunch of 12-year-olds in these United States.
What United States?
I'm going to get them on Kellogg's.
Ugh. So he starts, again, he goes into art. He starts making mosaics.
Okay.
As this, like, bringing back his... Because, he was technically Prussian, which has
Yeah.
been gone for a long time. So he's able to do these, like, mosaics in that early European, in that Prussian style, where it's kind of that older medieval almost.
Yeah.
Germanic medieval style. I'm sure if you saw it, you'll recognize it immediately.
Yeah, I think I've seen something recently
Really?
of his. Yeah. Some work of his.
Where?
While you were looking it up. When I sat
yeah,
down.
duh. You know what I'm talking about.
Before
then.
the episode,
I totally
but yeah,
forgot.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, really? I mean,
I'm like,
there's
the
a
episode
chance you
starts
did.
and I'm like, oh, I know his name. I know who this
I know
is.
this guy. No. So he was in around New York. He starts making mosaic art, but he also starts painting furniture, which early 50s mosaic painting on furniture, like that's like proto 1960s art shit. So he's like on it.
Yeah.
He becomes a hit overnight, essentially. He starts doing like huge orders where he's like hand painting this shit. He moves to LA with his family.
Jesus.
He's also one of the very few characters that we talk about on the show who did not treat his wife like shit or divorce her.
Well, he was too afraid of her.
Exactly. Exactly. You got it. By 1971, he brought his daughter-in-law into the family business, which is called like Scharf Art or something.
Scharf Art?
Scharf Art. And then they eventually made it Scharf and Scharf.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. You can find their website. It's actually pretty nice. They talk about their history a little bit. And their big starting project for Scharf and Scharf, the one that's going to put them on the map and make their business, legitimate, even though he was already super successful before, was to make a 15-foot mosaic 15 foot tall. I don't know how long it is. It's in sections. Of the story of Cinderella that is at
What the fuck?
Disney World in Florida still today.
Oh my
It's in
God.
Cinderella Castle. You can find it there. He did the mosaics there. He also
What year was that?
70s, early 70s probably.
Okay.
Probably, yeah. And then he also designed and created the floor in the California State Capitol building still.
It's like, of course, Disney would work with a fucking ex-Nazi.
He designed the art on the ramps leading to the Epcot Center.
Oh my God, dude.
He
Good for him, though.
He created the outdoor building facade of a large building at Dixie College in Utah.
Huh.
And he did a ton of work at churches, schools. I think like the LA what's that called? Like City Hall has some of his pieces in it.
Jesus. I'm sure.
And
how big
you
he
know,
is.
through a lot of this he would lecture, and he's been studied by their entire schools of psychology about his interrogation, like techniques and why they work. The FBI and the military still use it. Even like as soon as like I think it was 2009, the FBI created like an entire program just based on his
God damn.
his methods. He ended up dying in 1992. Scharf and Scharf continued until 2020 or 2022 when young Scharf passed away.
Oh.
And it's I dare I say this is a positive German during World War II episode.
Yeah, shit. We didn't have any, like, needless death. Look at you.
He prevented death.
And this is a surprisingly happy episode
And
following
yeah,
last episode. Hell yeah.
And surprisingly, like, that part in the beginning where it was like, I don't want to send you to the Gestapo, that was true. He never wanted... He did everything in his power
Oh,
to prevent sending
yeah.
people to the Gestapo because he knew how shitty they were.
Yeah.
Like...
Because I'm sure it happened, like, once or twice. And he was like, hey, can I reach back out to them? And they were like, oh, they're long
Oh,
gone.
he's dead.
Yeah. He died before he even stepped foot in the door.
Yeah. Weirdly positive World War II episode.
Weird.
I don't know, but you know what? It's proof that even if you're in a shitty situation, you can stand up in your own way and prevent the needless deaths of hundreds of people.
It's true, yeah.
Fight back against the system, ACAB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah,
Not
that's
bad.
the
crazy.
mission, the motto, the mission of this the theme. There we go.
The theme. I dig it. That's
Yeah.
I did not expect it to turn to like, oh yeah, he became an artist.
Yeah, he became an
Like
artist
a world-renowned artist.
for-
Excuse me?
like 40 years, which means he contributed more to art than to Germany, than
He
to
also
selling
attributed
cars.
more to the art community than Hitler ever did.
Yes, 100%. And that's why he didn't join the
Yeah.
Nazis, because he was actually
If
he was
had
successful.
failed, yeah, that was the other thing. Is it in the U.S. It was like he's like, hey, I have these roots that go back to 1930s and 1940s Germany, and everyone's like, his art is great. Just tell him his art is
Just tell him it's
fucking
good.
great.
Yeah, pay for it. I don't care. Yeah, he did some like weird orders. Like I think I remember him. I don't know. I didn't verify this, but it was like some company or like some government somewhere ordered like 20,000 pieces of furniture from him.
the fuck?
I
mean, it was
He
a
was
weird.
very
it was a weird
successful.
time.
It was a weird
for
time.
Furniture and
Yeah.
like interior decorating.
Yeah, plus all the money from the war really lined a lot of people's pockets.
I wonder if he's the one that painted your
Oh.
toilet upstairs pink.
Yeah, the pink toilet.
it's
Maybe
probably his design.
There's probably, if I look behind it, there's probably like a hidden swastika.
Scharf and Scharf.
Yeah, Scharf and Scharf.
and
Dude,
Sons.
If there's something small that I could buy, if anybody has anything that says Scharf and Scharf, I'd buy it.
It's cool.
I'll take out a second mortgage on my house because that's cool. And now I want to go to Dixie College. That's the first time I've ever said that sentence.
Good luck.
But now I'm like, I want to see that.
That's cool.
Because there's something there, Because the whole time I knew about the art when I started research. So this whole time I was like, I could form this.
Where does it start?
I could form this as like wow, I can't believe the this college and this Capitol building has art from a Nazi who contributed to war crimes. Turns out he didn't.
Yeah.
And it threw me for a loop. And I hate him because he was so lucky.
Yeah.
He fell in, he was born to a wealthy family, and it went up from there.
Jesus.
And you know what? That's okay. Because being born to a wealthy family in 1907 is totally different to being born to a wealthy family at any time past 1950.
True. Well, if you would like us to have children that are born to wealthy parents,
Actually,
good luck.
yes.
It'll never happen.
No.
Actually,
Hey.
no. For Patreon, yeah, it'll happen.
You know what? Everybody has a price.
Yeah.
So subscribe to Patreon.
Yeah.
If
find
you
us on
want to
Patreon.
find that price for us. And it kind of sounds like you're paying
it starts
for
low. We'll just put it that way.
It kind of sounds like you're paying for us to get laid. And I assure you that is what it is.
Yeah. True. Very true.
Yeah, so that's okay.
Yeah. Find us on Patreon. Points O Pressure. Patreon.com/Points O Pressure. Search for us on there at Points O Pressure. We do an exclusive episode every month on the first day of the next month. We have a couple of sloppy, or 20 plus sloppy seconds episodes, and a couple other things on there. Click around on it if you are interested. If you can't afford it, that is A-okay. Don't worry about it. But you got those names?
Yeah, so we got the board. I can't think of something funny to say about the board.
That's fine.
The board definitely had nothing to do with the Yugoslavian Civil War.
Yeah.
Minnie D and Toddle Waddle, thank you guys so much. Then, of course, we've got Abby, AJ's Third Nut, Kitty Titties, Thomas, Weston, Dark Runner, D's Nuts, G-Dog, Laura Revo, and Lindo. Thank you guys so much. Your involvement is ambiguous. We don't know.
Yeah. And we will keep it that way.
And we will keep
Don't
it that
worry.
way until you're in the board.
Yeah.
And then,
Well,
and
we
then
really,
know.
really do appreciate all of you guys for supporting us. And as always, if you guys ever have recommendations for anything, really, movies, TV shows, music, books, movies, TV shows, music, and books. And that's it. Nothing else. Anything that falls outside of that realm, we will not look at. No, if you have show ideas, an article that you're like, hey, this was about one of your episodes. What do you think about it? Send it along. Reach out to us on Instagram at Points O Pressure.
One or the
Or
other.
email us at ppdnaj, just the letters, at gmail.com, or go to our website, pointsopressure.com, and go to the contact us page, and we'll catch you guys next Monday.